Starting is exciting, finishing is life changing. Anyone can get fired up by an idea. Anyone can feel the buzz of a fresh goal, the rush of writing it down, the surge of momentum in those first few days. That's the easy part. That's where emotion is high and resistance is low. But life doesn't reward you for what you begin. It rewards you for what you complete. Finishing is what separates the dreamers from the doers, the talkers from the transformers. Because starting doesn't change your life, finishing does. Completion is where identity is built. It's where self-respect is forged. It's where you prove to yourself that what you say actually means something when you finish what you start. You send a message to your nervous system that you are not just a thinker, you are a finisher. You are someone who follows through. You are someone who honors their word, not just to others, but to themselves, and that is rare. That's why it's powerful. Because every time you finish a goal, no matter how big or small, you're reinforcing the most important belief you can have, that you can trust yourself, that when you say you'll do something, it's as good as done. That belief is what gives birth to momentum, and momentum is the lifeblood of transformation. People think motivation is the secret, but it's not. Motivation gets you moving. Finishing is what gives you power. Power isn't in potential, it's in proof. The proof that you followed through when it got uncomfortable. The proof that you pushed through boredom, fear, distraction, and still executed. That's what builds certainty. That's what makes you dangerous in the best way, because when you become someone who finishes, your world changes, people trust you more, opportunities show up, your own vision for your life expands because you're no longer hoping you're building. Finishing isn't about perfection. It's about persistence. It's about refusing to abandon the mission just because the feeling faded. It's about showing up even when it's not exciting anymore, when it's hard, when no one's watching, because you made a decision and your decisions mean something. That kind of follow-through doesn't just change your results, it changes your identity. It rewires your brain for progress. It tells your system, we don't quit here, we don't dabble, we don't dream and disappear. We finish what we start because that's who we are. Unfinished goals are open loops that drain your energy. Every time you start something and don't complete it, it lingers. It doesn't disappear, it hides in the background of your mind, quietly pulling focus, leaking energy, stealing clarity. You think you've moved on, but your nervous system hasn't. Your mind keeps track, and over time those open loops stack. You start to feel heavy, mentally cluttered, emotionally overloaded, and you can't quite explain why. It's because your brain is running too many tabs, too many "I'll do it later" promises, too many almost done projects. Each one unfinished not only delays the result, it damages the trust between you and yourself. Every goal you don't finish becomes a silent weight. You might not hear it, but you feel it. It shows up in hesitation, in doubt, in lack of focus. You start questioning your ability, not because you're incapable, but because you've trained yourself to expect inconsistency. You've rehearsed the pattern of starting strong and drifting. You've normalized making promises and not keeping them, not to others, but to you. And that's where it hurts the most, because deep down, you want to believe that when you commit to something, it means something. You want to feel solid, grounded, clean, clear, aligned, but you can't feel that way when your mind is cluttered with unfinished business. Completion is closure. It's peace, it's power. When you finish a goal, you don't just check a box, you close a loop. You take that energy that was scattered and pull it back into your center. You create space to focus, to dream bigger, to move faster. Most people are walking around exhausted not because they're doing too much, but because they're finishing too little. They're carrying the weight of their own unfinished work, and it's slowing everything else down. Finishing restores personal integrity. It says, I follow through. It says, I don't leave things halfway. That creates a level of certainty in your nervous system that nothing else can give you. It simplifies your mental world. It calms your emotions. It strengthens your decisions. The fastest way to reclaim your energy isn't to take a break, it's to close the loops you've been avoiding. It's to finish what you started and give your mind the gift of peace and your heart. The pride of knowing you kept your word to yourself. Discipline is remembering what you said you'd do, long after the mood you said it in has left. Most people are driven by feelings. They move when they feel motivated. They commit when they feel inspired. They quit when it gets inconvenient. But anyone can act when it feels good. What defines your future is what you do when it doesn't. Real discipline isn't built in moments of hype. It's built in moments of resistance. It's in the early mornings when no one's watching. It's in the late nights when it would be easier to delay. It's in those quiet choices where nobody claps, but your future is being formed. There's a moment in every goal where the excitement fades, where the dopamine wears off, where the voice in your head starts negotiating. And that's the test. That's the line between amateurs and professionals, between dabblers and finishers. The ones who cross that line are the ones who have made a decision that goes deeper than emotion. They don't wait to feel like it. They act because they made a commitment, and that commitment means more than their comfort. It means more than their excuses. It means more than their temporary feelings. When you train yourself to follow through regardless of mood, you become unstoppable. You stop needing perfect conditions. You stop needing external accountability. You stop asking, do I feel like it today? And start asking, what did I decide? That's the shift. Because when your identity is tied to discipline, not emotion, you don't have to rely on motivation, you rely on alignment. And that's what creates consistency. And consistency is where real results live. The world doesn't reward intensity, it rewards consistency. And consistency is just disciplined action repeated without excuse. You show up again and again and again, not because it's exciting, but because it's who you are. You don't need to feel motivated to act. You need to act and the momentum will follow. Every time you do something you didn't feel like doing, but you did it anyway, you reinforce a powerful belief that you are in charge, that your word is law, that your choices are stronger than your moods. And that belief becomes the engine behind every goal you finish and every standard you raise. Every time you finish something hard, you build a new standard for your life. Most people live within the limits of their comfort zone, repeating patterns and outcomes that feel familiar, even if they're unfulfilling. But when you commit to something difficult and finish it, not just start it, not just get close, but cross the line, you send a message to your nervous system that the old standard is no longer acceptable. You prove to yourself that you are capable of more, and that proof changes the way you see everything. The impossible starts to feel possible. The ceiling becomes the floor. And that new standard becomes your new normal. Finishing hard things doesn't just get you results, it transforms your identity. Because on the other side of every challenge is a version of you who knows how to push through resistance. Not once, not by chance, but because you decided to. That version of you starts to lead. That version of you becomes louder than the voice of doubt, hesitation, or old patterns. When you finish, you don't just get the goal, you build the kind of person who finishes, and that's where real power comes from. Your brain doesn't forget effort. It remembers intensity. It remembers struggle. It remembers commitment in the face of distraction. And when you complete something hard, it rewires the way your system responds to the next challenge. You start meeting resistance with certainty because you've built a pattern of overcoming. That's how confidence grows, not from affirmations, but from evidence, from experience, from knowing that you've done hard things before and you can do them again. The moment you finish something you once thought you couldn't, your entire world shifts. Not just because of the outcome, but because of the new baseline you've created. You raise the bar and you stop settling. You stop excusing yourself from growth. You stop lowering your standards to match your environment and start raising your environment to match your standard. You begin to expect more from yourself and as a result, more from life. And that expectation shapes your thoughts, your habits, your relationships, your outcomes. Because when your standards rise, everything around you rises to meet them. And it all begins the moment you finish something you once would have quit. The world respects results, not potential. Potential is seductive. It sounds good. It feels good. People love to be told they have it, that they could be great, that they have the gifts, the vision, the mind. But potential without execution is nothing but a ghost. It haunts people. It becomes the story they tell themselves to feel safe, the someday a story, the I could if I wanted to a story. But the truth is, potential doesn't change your life. It doesn't impact people. It doesn't leave a legacy. Only action does. Only completion does. Only results do. You can have all the knowledge, all the talent, all the ambition, but if you don't follow through, it doesn't count. The world doesn't reward what you thought about doing. It rewards what you actually did, the promises you kept, the projects you completed, the goals you didn't quit on when they got hard. Results are the receipts. They're the proof that you moved from intention to reality, from idea to impact, and without results, you're living in theory, not transformation. The marketplace doesn't care about your story. It doesn't care how inspired you were. It cares what you built, what you created, what value you delivered. That's how trust is earned. That's how opportunities are created. That's how momentum is built. Not by talking about what you're going to do, but by consistently doing it and finishing it even when you don't feel like it, even when it's not convenient, even when no one is clapping. Finishing turns invisible potential into visible power. It takes all the possibilities in your head and brings them into the real world. It gives you leverage, leverage to influence, to lead, to grow. When you become a finisher, people listen differently. They respect differently because they know you don't just mean well, you deliver. You don't just dream, you do. That distinction separates those who wish from those who win. The distance between a dreamer and a leader is measured in execution. And that execution is built one completed task at a time, one finished commitment at a time, one goal followed through to the very end, no matter what it takes, because that's the standard you've chosen to live by.